bringing you our tech talk for today, from chaos to control, using AI to run a smarter law firm. Our guest is Hamid Kohan.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate the introduction. So again, my name is Hamid Kohan. I'm the president and founder of LegalSoft and also LawPractice.ai. Has been a lot of changes in this industry in the past 7, 8 years. And one of the changes was when we started the LegalSoft about 7 years ago. It was extremely foreign to have a virtual legal staff located globally and not in the US or your office. And now is becoming a kind of a norm by sort of optimizing, streamlining a legal practice by utilizing global staffing that ranges anywhere from intake staff to legal assistants, case managers, paralegals, demand writers, the full range. Even people who actually helps you create summaries and trial preps and drafting and everything like that. So it was a hurdle for about 7 years or so. And we have like 1,000+ law firms that are using this kind of services, over 4,000 people placed into the legal offices that actually we help manage, train, and sort of move forward. And in the past couple of years, another major revolution came about into the legal industry by AI. AI came about. We started using some AI for some law practices. Again, it was all over the place. It started with, demands. What is a demand writing or medical record collections and medical summaries and chronologies and so forth. And now it moves forward to basically end-to-end helping the law practice to be operating and being optimizing. And the two major things was to be achieved. One is to lowering the cost of the law practice operation, to optimizing the process and make it scalable. Those were some of the major things that both on virtual legal staffing and AI came to do. In the virtual staffing, it was kind of a straightforward because they're still human beings. They're just not here. They're in different countries that are trained and focused to help the law firm. So it was an easier implementation. But when the AI came in, now you had to adopt to, this is not a person, this is a technology. It hasn't really been proven to be effective as much. And there's so many different flavors of it. And it sort of changed the industry. And then other conferences, legal conferences, webinars, podcasts like this goes on trying to implement the AI technology into the law practices. Is not easy, even for people like myself who spent 25 years into a tech industry and then came into the legal industry. It's still very complex, complicated, and hard to implement. Even though it gets presented like, oh, it's a cloud agent, you grab this, you do this, and all of a sudden it takes care of everything. It doesn't work like that. It gets talked about like that, but it doesn't work like that. So after that evolution of the AI coming in, visual staffing coming in, the future starting basically beginning of 2026 is a law practice which is scalable. This is a keyword, is a scalable, one is scale. It doesn't happen automatically. The founding members of the firm have to be understanding scaling, have the ambition and wanting to scale it, and they want tools to help them scale it. So here is like the three-part solution to be able to scale a law firm. One, you still need your 1/3 of internal staff to do things, especially litigation work, some client-facing, and more compliance-oriented tasks that needs to be done internally, like having your associate, having your attorney, having your senior paralegal who helps you do the discovery and the trial prep and so forth. That's your internal staff. The other third, who does more of a legal administrative, which is bilingual intake specialist to do client facing, document collection, case management, opening the matter, setting up appointments, even a small discoveries or demand writings or chronologies and so forth. That's your visual staff team. And this is what we produce, from legal assistance all the way to even the virtual bookkeeper who knows IOTA and trust accounts and the compliances of it. So that's your other one third. Now, starting 26, you also have the other one third, which is probably more complicated and complex, the other two third, which is AI. Is way too so many solutions. I want to say too many solutions, but it's probably the right word. There's too many solutions. Every time you turn around, there's 10 new AI tools that gets introduced. Oh, we can do better intake. We can do better document summaries. We can do better discoveries. It's like constantly on social media, on conferences, on webinars, even conversation as parties is when people finding out, oh, I just found this AI tool for my firm that does amazing. It makes it more complicated and complex to select, customize, and implement and manage. So, but it's going that way anyway. So this one third, one third, one third is going to be, in our opinion, the way of the future, at least for the next couple of years, until the AI implementation is completed. We feel like the in-house implementation is completed. We feel like we have a very good solution for virtual legal staff that are very effective, cost-effective, optimized. Now we're going to see what we do with the AI. So what the AI needs to be able to do is, again, a lot of streamlining and using data to be able to do some predictive analysis based on the previous cases, previous patterns, and actions and results, to be able to provide a better guidance for the future. How do we do this? Why do we do this? What's the best approach? What's the best way to do the data collections? It doesn't matter if it's for marketing and client generations all the way to litigation. So data analytics becomes a very important part, because AI is only effective if he is trained and has data. If he doesn't have those two things, it's basically a doorknob. There's no use to it, because he doesn't know what to do with what, how. It needs the data. So we need to make sure that we have collected the data. And this is what some of the major CRMs have for your firm, which if you handle 500,000 cases in the past, that data is probably the most valuable part of your entire law practice. More than the settlements, more than the clients, is your data set, because now they can be used to train a lot of AI agents to do pretty much all the way to lawyering. So just understand that the data that everybody was telling you need to have in your CRM, like FileVine, Clio, Litify, CasePeer, MyCase, all of these other places, right now, that's probably your biggest asset in your law practice. So initiating this AI, one of the problems that we found right from the beginning is having so many solutions. Like I mentioned, I probably get hit with a new AI intake for a law firm at least 2 or 3 times a week. How do I know which one is better, more effective, cost effective? Nothing. Everything is just up in the air. And then also 5 minutes later, I get hit with either AI for marketing, either AI for case management, either AI for drafting, document summary. Well, it's not feasible for any organization to subscribe to a dozen AI tools to be able to run a practice. I remember 6, 7 years ago when the CRMs were pushing forward, it was even hard to get a firm to subscribe to a single CRM, which is just one vendor, one system, one platform, one data warehouse, just one. It was very challenging. Imagine you want to now do that to 8 to 10 AI tools that one is not really proven that well, every single one of them. There's nobody to implement it, onboard you. Some of the onboarding in AI can take as long as 2 months to onboard the firm into the one single AI platform. But they don't necessarily tell you that in the front, because they think like it's a software as a service, it's a SaaS program. You go in, you log in, you're in, you do your thing. It doesn't work like that. So in the practice AI, what we try to do is to create one platform that you subscribe to, like you do in your CRM, FileVine, Clio, whatever. And in there, it is all the AI tools for your firms are in there. You can pick and choose which one to use or have them all connected to each other. So it starts from, having AI to do client generation and marketing. And then it goes into, okay, I generated it, now I need to intake it, retain it, pass it forward. Then I need to collect documents. Every case has document collection. And it can get tricky when you don't get the right documents collected, that the attorneys out there are very familiar with that. So our collection system needs to be able to analyze the document that received and verify it and summarize it. So you're not getting a wrong set of documents. It needs to be analyzed, summarized. So it needs to be attached. And then if you need to put it in chronologies, whatever is medical records, you do chronologies. If it's employment records, you need to do analysis and categorizing it and be able to identify key elements in those documents and highlight it. So that's the second part. The case analysis, if you're giving me 50 pieces of document about an accident, for example, or a medical situation, I need to be able to summarize it and forecast some sort of a value for the case. Now, it's a funny thing, every time you're asking attorneys to forecast or estimate the case value, you never get the right answer because one, they don't want to commit to something. Two, they're not sure. But if they go out and they want to brag to their buddy that they just got a $100,000 case, that's easy for them to say. But if you're asking them, you can't get it. So being able to do case forecasting, and then drafting documents, letter of engagements, letter of demand, any kind of a drafting that is simple. And to point out, even though it does all the draftings and so forth, it needs to be 100% reviewed by an attorney or another legal professional who has expertise reviewing documents. If anybody tells you the documents are 100%, you just drafted and submitted, is very wrong. That's just how people get in trouble. AI in no shape or form in any area is 100% solution. It's probably at the best, I would put it as 75% solution. The other 25% needs to be reviewed and edited by a legal professional to be able there. Then you go into litigation support. No, the case didn't settle pre-lit, it went to lit. So now the discovery, drafting, deposition prep, mediation prep, all of that stuff is part of the litigation support AI that helps you basically get prepared for beginning the litigation process, including drafting the complaint. Drafting complaint is not that sophisticated anymore because you have history of hundreds, if not thousands, of the complaints you already drafted. So the AI knows that already. And drafting a new one that you basically review and edit, now you have complaints drafted. So there should not be any backlog of things like demands or complaints drafting or the letter of engagement. There should not be any more backlog in your firm. And this is how you scale. And eventually, when all of this comes through in the same AI platform, it should enable you to understand your true ROI from a case that you got 18 months ago. All the cost, overhead costs, human costs, technology costs, licensing, fees, third-party services should be all considered. So I can tell you that your firm made gross of $28,000 per this case and $4,800 net attorney's fees. So it should be in the complete circle. And that's what's going to make the AI implementation in the law firm a streamline. Again, the key point is making it streamlined, connected, all the data into one platform. It teaches the AI from the entire 360 of the case, from the lead generated to the settlement finalized. And that's how you will get the total solution of the AI. There might be a couple of solutions like that out there right now, but I don't know of anything that has been fully proven to work that way. So the client generation is probably the trickiest and most complicated part of using AI because you got all these third-party folks that you're depending on. It doesn't matter if it's a billboard being scanned, to Meta, to Google, TikTok, YouTube, all these channels that firms spend a lot of money try to create a lot of different graphic messaging, posting, boosting. Um, and it's very difficult to understand the exact outcome of every type of boost to certain demographic for certain practice type with a certain budget on a certain platform, being like, for example, Meta. The AI solutions should be able to do most of those for you and basically make the changes as you move forward. So if you're running a campaign, you don't want to wait until find out, oh, shoot, this campaign didn't work and I'll spend the $25,000 in this ad campaign. It didn't work, so I'm pausing it or lowering the ad spend. I'm going to go to try the new things. The true AI does all of that and automatically identifies the best target audience, the best time, best message, best graphics to be engaging, and will know automatically when to increase the budget or when decrease the budget or shift the campaign to a different campaign. And that's a truly good AI marketing tool to identify clients. Then it goes into intake. Okay, the lead was generated. I need to have a multilingual, it's not even buy anymore, it's a multilingual AI intake, which is very engaging, very human-like. It has to have some emotions and some sympathy and empathy and all of that built in to be able to engage properly, get the information it needs to make sure the case is qualified case. While they're on the phone, this is one of the things about practice AI. Once the potential client is on the call, I need to have my AI intake send them the retainer via text or email or both and walk them through signing the retainer. Because we all know as soon as you hang up the phone and waiting for the retainer to be signed or sent or whatever, is a high risk and potential of losing that client to your competition. So I put a lot of emphasis to make sure once the client is engaged and is a potential qualified client, it is connected to a retainer and retained in the same time and not try to catch them later. This is one of the big tricks of the effective intake. Legal document drafting. Again, it comes out to just make sure there's no such thing as 100% AI drafted document that you can just, apply to. It helps you. It saves you 75%, 80% of your time. It can be a variety of different documents that you would draft. Most common nowadays has been a form of demand or engagement letter or record request and so forth, which is all straightforward to do. And then some of them even doing some very basic pre-litigation drafts of complaints to show basically to the other party that you're serious. And here is a sample of the drafted complaint that I could be filing. So those things expedite, again, the process, gets rid of the backlog, and moves you forward. Litigation support, this is basically all attempt for pre-lit has failed. So now you're building a case. So doing a discovery, which includes document collections, it goes back to the second step that says, I want to collect the documents from a variety of different sources. I want to summarize them, analyze them, and put them into a client system. So that litigation support should be able to do about, again, 75% of the paralegal work for discovery, summaries, and chronologies. So we talked about now the pre-lead and the lead. We always need to know exactly, like every business manages their asset and the value of their asset. We need to know the case values forecasting. So we know what's our average type of settlements or payout on the case. Creating a revenue forecasting. If you know your average, let's say talk about a PI firm. The PI firm in California, the average pre-lit settlement for PI case in California runs, the net attorney's fees runs between $12,500 to $18,000 or so. This is all pre-lit in California with a 1530 policies that now is changed to 3060. So if I have 100 of those cases, I should be estimating that I'm getting, $1.2 million. So it has to be a forecasting of your total potential revenue. Then understanding the duration it takes from sign up to settlements, which should be between 6 to 9 months on pre-lit, again, PI, California. And then understanding what's the cost of acquisition was, what's the cost of operation to take that case from intake to settlements, and what's my overhead. So now I know that if I essentially acquire a case for $3,000 cost of acquisition, spend $2,000 taking it to settlements, and my average is $12,000, I essentially made $7,000 on this case, a gross profit. Understanding the financial law practice is very new to a lot of firms because they never run it as a business. They run it as a law practice. So they didn't pay attention to cost of client acquisition, distributed overhead and financing and cost to the case, duration of time from beginning to the end of the case. They never calculated all of that, which is most companies do to understand what is their ROI and what's their gross margins and so forth. So this is all going to be new with legal industry, especially smaller from solo to mid firm. And the AI can now handle, again, probably about 70% of all of this. With previous data, current data, and be able to do run analytics and understand patterns, trends, and averages. So these are basically the end-to-end, the 360 that I was talking about, from beginning of the setting up a law firm to acquire clients, implement virtual staffing to minimize the cost, understanding the technology and AI integration into the firm, connecting all three pieces with the internal resources to be able to have the most optimized law practice, almost in any kind of a contingency, plaintiff practices. All of this applies. I also want to mention that when you are exposed either online or to the conferences or CLE classes or whatever you go to, just make sure that you're not getting overwhelmed with the massive amount of informations and new technologies, new approaches that is getting thrown into the legal tech industry, and be able to be selective and have a proof of concept before you begin evaluating any of those for your law practice. I'm going to cover a few other things with this scaling process. Is we have like law firms right now that we started with the firm by having like a couple of virtual staff in there for intake and so forth. And they have increased as high as like 86 to 90 virtual staff in the firm that is consists of about total of 200, which is that 50-50 arrangement goes on. And now in the past 6 months, they started implementing some AI. So they're like 45% VAs, about 40% in-house, and about 10-12% AI. And so we've seen this in effect with these are personal injury firms, consumer protection firms, and now some employment labor firms who have gone through this process of first going 50-50 with virtual and in-house. Now they are moving into that one-third, which is going to probably take about 2 years to get there, to have a 3 pieces to the puzzle of 1/3 each. Again, if anybody needs any clarification or want to talk about any specific topic, I'll be happy to do so.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Hamid. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And we hope to see you soon at webinars or future tech talks. Again, thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Hamid, very much.